Hi, hello, and welcome to the Dragon Master Series. I'm Dr. Madeleine Muller. I'm a family physician at Cecilia Makiwane Hospital in the Eastern Cape, South Africa, and I also work for Walter Sisulu University as a senior lecturer. And this course is particularly to help you gain advanced skills in emotional competence. And it's based on the theoretical framework that I'm busy creating for my research project that I'm doing for my master's and that I will also be taking into my PhD. And I'm very curious about how do we teach emotional competence? And to be able to do this, I've had to try and figure out actually, well, how does emotional competence work? Um, and as a result, I've worked my way through vast amounts of massive literature review, and that's still an ongoing process. This is just a handful of my references. And I've looked at things like emotional intelligence. There's extraordinary people like Goleman and Baron and Schutter that's done lots of work in this area. In India with Singh and Bhargava, there's been quite a lot of work done around emotional maturity and a lot of studies done around emotional maturity. But I found a lot of these concepts very wide and not always very useful in terms of actually helping us identify how we teach the skills on the ground. And what I found very useful as a way to ground my theoretical framework is the work of Panksepp and giving an amazing basis for effective neuroscience, and which particularly looks at how emotion influences behavior, which I think is very useful in terms of being able to understand how we teach competence. And so it's Brasseur that's really helped me find the term that described what I was looking for. And with emotional competence, Brasseur defines three different levels, and I've expanded these slightly. So if you can think of being able to be emotional competent as a skill that we're going to learn, there's sort of three levels that we build up to. And of course, all of us already have certain levels of emotional competence to be able to function in the complicated world that we live in today. And we're going to look at how do we take those skills up a level. So if we look at these three levels, the first basic level is a knowledge level, and we actually have to have some understanding, explicit understanding of how emotion influences behavior and how that interaction works. And although I think a lot of this implicitly, a lot of this seems quite common sense when we actually teach it, in reality, a lot of us are not explicitly aware of how those links are actually, how those link up. The second level is once you've got an understanding of how emotion and behavior is actually linked up, is a skill level. And now we actually have to be able to become aware when we are having strong emotions, and especially the negative emotions, our subconscious emotions, such as grief, panic, rage, and fear. These emotions quite often can lead to behaviors before we've actually even consciously thought them through. And so next level is being able just to notice when you're actually within a strong emotion and being able to understand how these emotions and the functions of these emotions are, makes it easier for us to build this skill. And then the third advanced level, which we're going to look at in further modules within this course, is then particularly in how we use this knowledge and how we use this awareness to start managing our own behavior when we are having strong emotions, or being able to respond appropriately to somebody else who might be experiencing strong emotions. So this is a very messy, complex slide, which actually gives an overview of the theoretical framework that we're going to be working from. And in module 1, we're going to start focusing on an understanding these two different focuses of control that we have in the brain. So in the right top-hand corner here, you can see the prefrontal cortex, this newer part of our evolutionary brain. That has a lot of our executive functions. And that's in contrast in the bottom left here with our mammalian and reptilian brain, or our survival brain, that lives more within the subconscious part of ourselves. And you can see this whole big red part at the bottom here is our subconscious irrational self that's in constant balance with this conscious rational self that we have. In module 2, we'll focus in a lot of detail on understanding the survival brain of ourselves, and I'll tell you all about my dragon analogy that we're going to be using. And in module 2, we specifically look at the things we need to survive, resources such as food, security, tribe, the people that we associate with, our intimate partner, sex, and power. In module 3, we're going to start really digging into the behaviors that comes to the fore when we are within our survival brain mode, and particularly these behaviors that are quite often irrational and subconscious. In Module 4, we're going to specifically focus on the emotional, how emotions play into all of this. And we're going to look at the positive emotions such as play, care, and seek, and the negative emotions of panic, grief, fear, and rage. And these are particularly as they've been outlined in affective neuroscience. So we're going to look specifically at how the neurophysiology of those emotions work. Then by the time we get to Module 5, we can actually start looking at some master skills that we want to see come into play when we're understanding the dynamic between our rational and our irrational self. So we're going to look specifically at relationships. We're going to look at how we navigate sex and sexual diversity. We're going to look at how we navigate difficult people. So in medicine, that will be looking at difficult patients who are difficult. We're going to look at how we teach, that's specifically in adult education, and how we mentor and how this becomes important in that skills. And we're going to look at patient-centered healthcare for the clinicians. In Module 6, we're going to focus on children and the neurodevelopment. So how does all of this come about? We're going to talk specifically around informed consent, and particularly also looking at parenting and how we interact with children and young people. And then finally, in Module 7, we'll have some specific aspects looking at how we can understand these particular rational versus irrational selves within society. So particularly looking within the educational system, within things like the corrective services, and generally within our political development at large. Thank you very much. I hope you will join me. We will be developing modules as we go along. So keep an eye on my YouTube channel and my website to find further information as the modules are published.